Hi, you're watching India Post Live. I'm Shivraj, and today we're discussing Pakistan's view of the Indian elections. You can join in on the conversation by logging on to our website, indiapostlive.com. You can also tweet with us using hashtag IndiaPostLive. So does Pakistan, or at least the Pakistani press and the people, have a view of the Indian elections? Let's take a look.
If there is another country that understands India better than most, it is Pakistan. The not-so-friendly neighbor has the same factors in their elections that we do, like factionalism, coalition politics, and rampant cynicism. Pakistani voter can almost think like an Indian voter. Is Pakistan keeping a close watch on the Indian elections? It doesn't appear so. Apart from the Urdu press, one only sees occasional write-ups in English press. The media seems preoccupied with the trial of ex-President Musharraf that cast a shadow on civil-military relations and the issue of negotiations with the Taliban. That reflects a deep division across the society and polity. But Indian elections do seem to be the talk around TV lounges in millions of households, mainly due to Narendra Modi and his hardline image.
आप नहीं समझते कि नरेंद्र मोदी भी एक तब्दील शख्स होंगे, एक डिफरेंट प्राइम मिनिस्टर होंगे?
We will carry forward the policies as envisioned and implemented by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. सबके साथ दोस्ती करेंगे.
But the big question is still unanswered. How does Pakistan see a regime change in India? Will the hostility continue, or will there be a change of heart in the subcontinent?
So the big question is, how are Pakistanis viewing the Indian election and what happens after government formation? Joining us in studio is Ambassador KP Fabian, who is the chair of the KPS Menon School of International Relations in Kottayam, and also Senior International Affairs Specialist and Journalist Kamar Agha. And we're also privileged to have from Karachi, Amir Mughal, who is a political analyst. Amir, I think it would be more than fair to come to you and ask you, from your perspective, reading the news there, speaking to people, watching generally the discourse, how much of it is even featuring Indian elections, or what's happening in India?
Print media is covering it. I don't watch much TV, but print media is covering it, and most of the people of right wing consider this: if Narendra Modi wins, then it's going to be very bad for Muslim in India.
Now, Kamar Agha, just you stepping in from also your lens of being an Islamic specialist and an international affairs observer, would you say that that's somewhat of a fair kind of sense that's coming out of Pakistan?
No, I don't think, because in Pakistan, if you look at all the religious organization, political religious organization per se, they support Hindu India. They always support, they back, in fact, the BJP or the other organizations, religious organization. So their perception is that India should be Hindu and Pakistan should be Muslims, So this is what the perception is. If you go through the statements of the Jamaat-e-Islami or statements of the Jamiatul Ulama Islam Pakistan or other groups, for that matter. Even some of the militants have welcomed, last time. So therefore, what we feel, that yes, the people of Punjab and Sindh, these are the two regions, where Indian elections are keenly watched. These are the places where large number of Indian migrants, people who migrated from India to Pakistan, Muhajirs are living,
Absolutely.
They have more interest.
And just taking up from there, Amir, you're Skyping in from Karachi, and Karachi is where India in many ways is the connections are there, of course, historically, but also it's an emotive topic. Are the Indian elections on the street an emotive topic or not at all?
Not at all, not that much, but let me clarify. The Pakistani religious parties are not in majority,
okay,
and that they also use BJP victory as a weapon to be used against those who favor India-Pakistan friendship.
Okay, so Ambassador Fabian, I think when it comes to the India-Pakistan relationship, or whenever there's discussion on India and Pakistan, the rhetoric just can't go away, right? So would you say that it will, be right now not on their radar, but as soon as the outcome comes, there will be somewhat of a statement back and forth? Because we've already seen the incumbent, the new ambassador, the High Commissioner, presenting his credentials and saying, we are eagerly waiting because there will be a real attempt by the Nawaz Sharif government to extend a hand of friendship. Do you see that happening, or do we lapse into some sort of rhetoric?
I'll put it this way. Strictly speaking, we don't know who is going to form the new government in Delhi. But whosoever forms the government, the new government will certainly make an effort to, how shall I put it, to reset our relations with Pakistan in a positive sense, at least to start with. So one can say that with reasonable confidence that that will be done, and this will happen even if it is a Narendra Modi government.
Okay, sorry, Amir, we cut you off. You were saying something about the 1999 talks and the entire, bilateral effort of crossing the border in a bus by Vajpayee.
Let me clarify. These parties, the religious parties or militant parties, would never ever support Narendra Modi. The right-wing non-mullah parties like PMLN, PTI, even People's Party would support Narendra Modi for peace with India. Okay. Do you remember that 1999, the same Jamaat-e-Islami opposed Nawaz Sharif in letter and spirit to be involved with India in any peace deal? Do you remember this?
But, actually, Ahmed, what the question we're asking is whether Pakistanis at large are even talking about and looking at the Indian elections, staying away from the militant Islamic parties, but Pakistanis in general. Is there interest there?
Yes, they want peace, stability, and mutual relation with India. Most of the people, majority of the people want peace with India.
Right. No, but my question is, are the Indian elections at all seeing any play? Because whenever I go online and look at what the Pakistani media is covering, it's very selective, it's very little. Is it not important in terms of a worldview of your immediate region?
Pakistani media, mostly Pakistani media, is basically right-wing and adopted a narrative of jingoism. Getting my point?
Okay, so it's very interesting, Amir, that you say that, and to our guests in studio, because we're getting a lot of Twitter buzz around the show because we did a bit of tweeting and saying, coming up. And there was a tweet from Asli Liberal who said, at India Post Live, all pro-Indians, why no one from the Pakistani side? To which some of our guests who will be coming up in the show, interestingly, Achal Jami, who is from Dunya TV, says, since how long do you know me? And then we have Yasir Latif Hamdani also saying, how am I pro-Indian exactly? And then Kamran Shafi saying, neither am I actually. So do you see that even with a show like this, that where we're harmlessly talking about whether Pakistanis are interested in the Indian election, there still continues to be, like you said, the fringe group or the right wing still pushing its own agenda?
He may be a troll. He is not even a genuine.
Sure. And that seems to be, Ambassador Fabian, something that's happening on the social media. That there are these people who are watching from the fringe or the right wing, and if you say anything that's adverse, they step in and they start ratcheting up. That's happened with the India-Pakistan relationship in the past, hasn't it? There have been incidents of the outside, the non-establishment stepping in and trying to scuttle the process.
Well, it has happened in the past, but I think it essentially depends on the government in Pakistan and also the government in India. And I think if the two governments are determined, if there is keenness and diligence on both sides at the same time, then something can happen.
And I think there are positive signs. The Pakistani High Commissioner, after presenting his credentials, had been very clear when he was asked by the media, if Modi comes in, what's the issue? He says, whoever comes in, we are ready to talk. Do you think there is international pressure as well on the Pakistani government to show some signs towards talking to just about anyone, given that it's almost like everyone's predicting the election here?
Let me put it this way. The High Commissioner spoke well, and he spoke as a true diplomat. I mean, that's
And you
what
should know, yes.
any high commissioner should have said.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as regards international pressure, I suppose the United States would like to see a certain rapprochement between India and Pakistan. There's no doubt about it, for its own strategic reasons that we can understand.
And Mr. Aga, looking at the Indian election and the kind of sort of religiosity and people are attributing, a certain sense of divisiveness. So when I looked at the Dawn site, for instance, they talked about just those cherry picking those things. Are they really going to be a factor when a new government is formed and India and Pakistan will have to sit across the table and negotiate?
I think
On
they
tough
will.
issues?
Ambassador has just mentioned, I think we cannot avoid that. BJP is very keen to have good ties with Pakistan, And in fact, there is a spokesperson who already mentioned it. The peace process, in fact, initiated by Atal Bihari Vajpayee when he was in power, There were lots of problems came, First, even Atal Bihari find it very difficult to push through. Then UPA 1, UPA 2, we negotiated all important issues, including Siachen or Sir Greek or whatever, sometime, we realized that we are almost through, able to solve.
Almost towards the last mile.
Then, some attack took place in somewhere, and the whole thing was scuttled. Second thing, as far as Indian election is concerned, large number of Pakistanis, there's no doubt, wants friendly ties with India. Nawaz Sharif, in fact, have won 2 elections, by promising that to have promising to forge closer ties with India, But each time, he also, find difficulties. So there are lots of things. As far as international pressure, I think it's not much on Pakistan. Pakistan is too engaged in Afghanistan. And their entire energy, everything is focused on Afghanistan, including the militants.
Absolutely.
They're also looking towards Pakistan. India is not a factor at the moment. There's not much talk of India. Urdu press is also, if you look at the Urdu press, which is the major.
Absolutely, the most important influencer.
The Urdu press is full of news from Afghanistan,
absolutely.
Taliban,
the election having just taken place.
Taliban, and the second thing, apart from Punjab and Sindh, if you look at the northwest frontier province or Baluchistan or FATA, the tribal agency region, where the election is not important for them. For them at the moment, the militancy which is going on, the Tehreek-e-Taliban or the negotiation with the militants or Afghanistan election. So they are mainly focused on Afghanistan elections at the moment.
Absolutely. And Amir, I know you have to go, so last words from you, because I've noticed that you have put in very strong tweets saying this man is a troller. Your last thoughts on what the concerns are in Pakistan vis-a-vis watching the Afghan elections and what happens there, and India and the elections here?
Besides core issue,
right,
the religious lobbies in Pakistan, the religious lobbies, right-wing, Jamaat Islami or whatsoever, always would spoil any proper peace talk with India.
All right, Amir, thank you so much for joining us there from Karachi and giving us that perspective from Pakistan.
Thank you.
Ambassador Fabian, I think that's a very moot point. I mean, I think Pakistan is right now very concerned about what happens in Afghanistan, because at some level it's also been their theater of geopolitical struggle against the way India gets into that region as well.
Well, Pakistan is watching very closely what is happening in Afghanistan, and following the withdrawal of US-led NATO forces, actually US withdrawal, Pakistan would like to make sure that it has a certain influence, to put it mildly, on the political setup in Afghanistan. And Pakistan has kept its links open with the Taliban also. So, and Pakistan naturally would not like India to
especially with the American withdrawal.
Yeah,
there is a huge potential for Pakistan to try and be a little more aggressive.
Yeah, to sort of step up its influence, and Pakistan would do whatever it can to make sure that India doesn't get engaged in Pakistan in a significant manner. They wouldn't mind India's doing this or that, but any sort of strategically significant relationship between Afghanistan and India, Pakistan will do whatever it can to prevent it.
And Mr. Aka, clearly, you've been watching the Urdu press in Pakistan. What is it that they're really talking about when it comes to the region? Because, of course, there are two countries on either side, geopolitically very important for them, going to, political change, and of course, Afghanistan being such a border that's of concern as well.
Yeah, that's true. You see, major thing which they are expressing, fear, anger. Modi is gaining ground. Right-wing shift in India, Relations, might worsen if Modi comes to the power, Third thing, the what would happen to Indian Muslim. Gujarat, time to time, they repeat, These are the issues, They don't talk about much about development, or they don't talk about other issues, which India is feeling. So they mainly focused on Muslim problems in India. The highlight, sometimes they exaggerate also things, which are happening here, And these are the things, but not much in Urdu press. News, yes, they are coming. They have also talked a lot about, the Aam Aadmi Party. Aam Aadmi Party was mentioned,
Right.
A lot of things, that we should also form a similar party. An Aam Party was formed in Pakistan somewhere, I don't remember the name, that person. He formed the party, but he couldn't get much support in Pakistan. Because before Aam Party, they say that, look, Imran Khan was the same. He was
Tehreek
talking.
Insaf, he
Yeah,
promised a new
promised
way, and he said he was going to do things
So
differently.
these things come up in the Urdu press.
Interesting,
mostly,
because there will always be parallels in the South Asia region between
You see,
ideologies.
culturally they are one. They may be, by partitioning or by India, you can't create a nation. It takes hundreds of years to establish. Pakistan is still, in Pakistan, the sub-regional nationalities are much stronger than the national identity. For example, they are first Sindhis, then Pakistani, or first Punjabi, then Sindhi, or Pashtun, would first, they are Pashtun, then they are Pakistani. So these ethnic identities, and
ethnic identities
they are very strong, and many of them are not comfortable with the military rulers in Islamabad. Some of them even want separation, separatist activities,
Balochistan.
nationalist movements are very strong in Balochistan or Pashtun area. In order to counter that nationalist movement, they promote Islamic identity, they promote Islam, because they think, the only way is to unite Pakistan is through religion, and you cannot do for a very long period. You can't use religion for a very long period. When it comes to the religion, then what happens, the Punjabi's domination in the name of Islam, we see. So these are the issues,
Many complexities.
very complex, Then army comes, Army acts as a guardian of Pakistani state, Islamic state, Islamic Republic, sometimes they call it, Who's the guardian is the army, So these are the contradictions, in Pakistan.
Okay, we have actually someone joining in by Skype from Lahore. Ajmal Jami, you are an anchor with Dunya TV. How much is your station giving play to the Indian elections?
All right, thank you very much. Salam, namaste to the viewers sitting over there, and I'm listening the conversation. You're having very good guests around there in the studios. I was listening to Amir as well. Basically, we have dispatched our team there in India, and our fellow anchor is there covering the event and covering the election. But let me tell you about the concern. I was listening to the discussion. Closely related concern is about Indian Muslims who are perceived to be helpless victims of the political current moving in Modi's way. Since the Delhi's Imam Shahabuddin, perhaps his name is, declaration that Muslims of India should vote for the Congress. I mean, that came too late, and maybe that is a concern that has been felt here in our side. Moreover, I would like to talk about a couple of other issues. For instance, people feel that there was Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal. I mean, he has been attacked for 5 to 6 times in a month. And if he is that armed, then how come it is possible that he has been attacked so fluently and so oftenly? I mean, people are feeling the political maneuvering going on. I mean, they believe here that he has been attacked. Moreover, as Amir spoke and your guest spoke about the Pakistan-India relations, initially we have noted that our press did not give that coverage that was required. But now, when you guys are heading towards the 5th stage, I think, now our channel momentum is building up to cover those elections. Of course, these are very important elections, and you guys are not going for election for the very first time. This has been the 16th time, and there is a system behind your democracy, behind your government. So, as our advisor to Foreign Affairs to Prime Minister Sartaj Aziz quoted to Daily Telegraph, he said, whoever will come, we will deal with that, and we know there is a system, and they follow certain policies. But yes, there is some concern about Modi Sarkar, but at the same time, the same Modi, he was spotted saying that the issue of Kashmir, which has not been solved in the 60 years, I'll solve it in 60 days. I mean, and that shows that in 1999, back in 1999, it was the BJP government, and we came to a huge breakthrough of the last 2 to 3 decades. So we are expecting, and on our side especially, when we see our Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, he's pro-businessman. He likes to help businessmen, and he likes trade.
Okay.
And he is, and we here, our government, our businessmen, they're anxiously waiting to go for MFN, most favored nation, and they like to have cross-border trade.
So actually, Ajmal, you've asked 2 very key questions of our panelists, and I think I'm going to throw first to Mr. Kamar Agha. I think the concern, and both guests raised that, is the fear across the border that if Modi should come in, what happens to the Indian Muslim? Now, there is this, so when I traveled through Pakistan as an anchor and a journalist myself, I used to be asked this question, your Muslims are not being treated well. Why is there this prevalent view of the Indian Muslim from the outside?
I don't know why, because we are living in peace, we are living in harmony. Islam is thriving here. Our problem is thousands and thousands of madrasas which have sprung all over the country, and we have all the Jamaats, which are existing in Pakistan, whether Jamaat-e-Islami or Jamatul Ulama Islam. Their headquarters are actually in India. The movement where it started from here, I don't know why do they think, yes, we have some problems at times. Not only we, the Dalits have much more problem, or for that matter, the Brahmins have other problems, everybody has a problem. It's a big nation, over 1 billion people are living here. We have some of the big top industrialists in this country are Muslims, we have hundreds of schools, colleges. We need more schools, we need more colleges. Our emphasis was more, after the partition, was on madrasa, religious education, so we opened these institutions. We have a big middle class now. The industry, many industries in UP, Bihar is controlled by Muslims, the small scale industries. And we have a problem also,
Right.
Like many other communities, we are also demanding reservation, like Jats are demanding, or many other communities, The problem was, after the partition, what was happened, the entire middle class in the northern India migrated to Pakistan. The educated middle class migrated to Pakistan. That is a very major problem for us. Whereas, the South India, you don't find this problem.
So, Ajmal, I just wanted to ask you whether you actually looked at the BJP manifesto. There's a very interesting bit about madrasas where they've made it an agenda item to bring technology to the madrasas and upgrade learning there. What is your reaction to a promise from a seemingly right-wing Hindu party like that saying that?
I mean, that's an awesome manifesto for madrasas. I will definitely go for that. But before that, let me make it clear one thing. The point of view which I narrated here a while ago, that was a journal point of view that exists here. I mean, being a journalist, I quoted those are sentiments which people feel here. I mean, you can't come up with a sweeping statement. You need to analyze these all things on different ranks. How do journalists feel it? How do politicians take it? How do a layman take it? How do right-wing parties take it? I mean, that's my concern. You can't come up with a sweeping statement.
So one more thing, Ajmal. There was a very interesting second point you made about economic ties, given that Nawaz Sharif comes from such a strong business background. And I'm going to bring Ambassador Fabian in as well on that perspective. Economic diplomacy has pretty much become par for the course. I think there's been some back and forth on why Pakistan hasn't given MFN or most favored nation status. But I think that's become sort of redundant because there is talk of strengthening bilateral ties. There is talk of a little more integration. How important will that be for any future government in India to now navigate?
Let me put it this way. The current trade between India and Pakistan can easily be multiplied by almost 10 times in 3-4 years if India and Pakistan has a normal trade relationship. That is not this negative list and all that sort of thing. and also if India and Pakistan trade directly with each other rather than through Dubai.
Right.
There are things which Pakistan needs, which India has, and there are things which India needs, which Pakistan has. So trade is something, good for both the countries, and there is no logic whatsoever in preventing that sort of mutually beneficial relationship. And I think Pakistan should have given MFN status to India long time ago. I saw the statement recently saying that it's because they don't want to interfere in the Indian election. Well, I respect the sentiment, but I think, let us be pragmatic. The MFN should have been given long time ago, but it can still be done.
You see, we have given this MNF status to Pakistan in '96.
Well, long time ago.
And it's a long time, we are still waiting.
Nearly 20
There are two things, Yes, I fully agree with Ambassador Fabian. There are more to it, Actually, Manmohan Singh was very keen for economic integration of the entire region.
Absolutely.
He wanted the South Asia to be integrated with Central Asia.
Sure.
Because we are already integrating with the Southeast Asia, the India and
because
other
South
countries.
itself wasn't really taking off.
Look east.
Look east policy, that is there, But the other thing, the problem is Pakistan is blocking our entry into Central Asia. We cannot bypass. That's why, the whole thing is waiting, Pakistan thinks, that if we have some sort of MNF status given to India, then, the Indian industry will come and dominate. I mean, these are the same arguments.
So, Ajmal, could I bring you in there? Because the statement is that there is a fear emanating from Pakistan that if they provide most favored nation status to Indian businesses, that Pakistani businesses will be swallowed up. Is that still a prevalent view?
I mean, that exists. That has always been here in our business community. But before that, Shivraj, I want to add a couple of other things. Since I'm a journalist and I'm supposed to come up with the point of view of our laymen, our public, and our other ranks, so I need to put up two things, very important things. First of all, I have myself covered last two elections which were held in Pakistan once Pakistan People's Party came into government, and now East Pakistan Muslim League Noon, who is ruling over. I have never seen these parties talking against India. I mean, India was never been the part of their campaign. India bashing was never been part of their campaign. And on the other side, when I see these elections in India and all other elections which held in India, I can easily say that Pakistan is always there, and the agenda and the speeches and the rhetoric and the public sentiments. I mean, leaders on the other side will come up anti-Pakistan statements. I mean, if you are really worried and really want to strengthen good ties, then you need to stop bashing each other. I have noticed it myself in the last two elections that no Pakistan political party, major, I'm talking about the mainstream political parties, they did not come up with anti-India statements. So this is the basic difference which I felt in the last two elections. Moreover, your point of view, yes, there are some business communities who are worried and concerned about that. But on the other side, they are equally hopeful that these mutual ties are definitely going to help them as well from the other way around. I hope you are getting my point.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajmal, for joining us, because we have a few other Skype callers from Pakistan joining in, and thank you so much for that larger perspective on the Pakistan view of the Indian elections.
Thank you, Shivraj.
Do you think, Ambassador Fabian, that's even a fair statement? I think there's obviously a filtered level view of the rhetoric here during the elections on Pakistan. No. Are they being oversensitive at some level?
Let's look at the big picture. Let's have a thought experiment.
Okay.
Suppose Pakistan had taken prompt action to bring to justice those who are responsible for 26/11.
Yes.
Suppose. In that case,
it would have been an easier job for politicians.
Indians would not have been so concerned with the threat of terrorism from Pakistan.
Right.
So obviously, if Pakistan figures during the election time or even otherwise, there are good reasons for it. And as I said, Pakistan is in a position to do something about it, so that the Pakistan does not become an issue or a matter of debate during the election.
Mr. Agha, But while that is a valid point, isn't it also far more complex in terms of who makes the real decisions, who calls the shots in Pakistan? Is it the intelligence services? Is it the military? Is it the democratically elected government? Or is it the fringe elements that are seemingly pushing at both?
No, in fact, we all know there's nothing secret in it. It's
Right.
the army,
Right.
which is the most powerful institution in Pakistan. When it comes under pressure, international pressure, they allow negotiations, talks to explicit. But then later, we see, they use militant to sabotage it. So that is what has been going on for a very long period of time.
And what do you make of the latest reports that have been coming in? They nabbed certain members of militant groups that have been recruited from India in Pakistan and come back. And there are all these claims that, and in fact, there were generals who were handlers. And so it goes back to the 2611 question. It makes it very difficult for Indian politicians to get away from that.
Of course, we have democracy is very deep rooted in India. Then people want, what happened to 2611 thing, they're still at large, they're moving around in Pakistan, addressing public meetings, funding made available to Hafiz Saeed and others, their organization, Lashkar-e-Taiba and others. So these are very serious concern, Then Pakistan attitude in Afghanistan, they're not allowing India, they don't want India to play any role in Afghanistan. Then blocking our entry into Central Asia, because Pakistan is a gateway to Central Asia, Afghanistan and Iran, So these are the issues, we have been trying to improve ties. We want regional integration, we want economic integration, we want rail and road connectivity from Pakistan, but they're not coming forward, These are the problem, The problem with the Pakistani army, the army, it not only act as the most powerful institution there, but it also serves the foreign interest also in Pakistan, the big power interest in Pakistan.
So there's an interesting tweet from our previous guest, Ajwal Jami. I think because he didn't feel that he got a chance to say what he said, is that you cannot come up with sweeping statements, and I think this is in reference to our politicians during the election. Implementation is what is needed. That goes back to what you said, Ambassador Fabian, right? We can't get away from the rhetoric until and unless the process of nabbing those behind different attacks takes place. But it's a bit of a chicken and egg, isn't it?
No, I think it's fairly clear that Pakistan government could have and should have done much more and much more promptly. There is no question of any doubt there. And we also know why it was not done. It is mainly because of the ISI involvement. I mean, let's look at the facts as they are.
Okay, so we are joined via Skype from Pakistan by Kamran Shafi, who's a senior journalist. Kamran, what from your perspective, from a bird's eye view, watching what the Pakistani press and people are saying, how much of it is actually watching the Indian elections, or are they perhaps not even watching it that closely?
No, they definitely are watching it closely. But whatever happens, we'll see over the next few weeks.
Sure.
As far as Pakistan, as far as I'm concerned, it's India's internal matter, obviously.
Right.
And I'm not worried about Mr. Modi coming in or Rahul Gandhi taking over. I think whoever comes will be representing India. And India is an important neighbor of Pakistan, as Pakistan is an important neighbor of India. We have to interact with each other. One can't remain peaceful without the other. But I'll go back to what the last speaker was saying. Who was that, please? I can't see anything, so I don't think anybody can see anything.
Ambassador Fabian was just speaking.
Ambassador who, please?
Fabian.
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 Yes.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Good afternoon to the ambassador.
Good afternoon.
And to everybody else. If we keep the ground we've gone across tens of times, we're going to get nowhere. Mm-hmm. What we have to understand is that if all the blame simply cannot be put on Pakistan, which is not to say that I'm saying a thing like Mumbai should happen. Of course it shouldn't. I'm not saying a thing like the attacks in the parliament should happen. Of course it shouldn't. And so on. I am merely saying that we in Pakistan, especially I, who am all for Indian-Pakistan amity, would want that India also understands that it is not pure as the driven snow. It is not as if it doesn't do things that rile its neighbor, which is us. I want to say emphatically that I am all for an agreement on Kashmir, as was about to be arrived at when General Musharraf went to Agra. I was there as part of the press party. I saw what happened. I saw the body language. I saw your poor foreign minister. I saw what he went through. We were there in Agra. It was pathetic the way things ended and so on. So we have to see that both sides they've been problems. And India ought to pick up its own problems also and try and sort them out. Now, things that happen in Kashmir, they happen in Kashmir even without the so-called Mujahideen.
Yeah, and Kamran, I'm just picking up from Twitter because we're sort of watching, obviously this discussion is picking up a lot of traction. So the last guest had actually said that, had leveled an allegation that perhaps Indian political leaders during the election have been Pakistan bashing, and someone in response, Razaul Hassan Laskar, has said, really, except for Modi, no one has even raised the issue of Pakistan in the election campaign. What is the view of how much Pakistan is featured in the election campaign from your perspective? Do you think it's valid to say that there's been bashing? I mean, there hasn't been much.
There has been no. Laskar is right that there was bashing from the BJP side.
Sure.
When they accused some Indian ministers for being pro-Pakistan.
Okay.
Which is so unfair, really. Yes, we saw that. So, but there was that. I'm only saying that once the election is over and all this dust and heat is settled, and the government takes over, then whoever the government is will look at things in a more pragmatic fashion. I mean, after all, when General Musharraf went to India and there was almost a breakthrough, which government was there at power? The BJP.
Absolutely.
The hard right people in the BJP, the gentleman in Mumbai who was on the telephone, we heard for 8 hours at length with Miss Sushma Swaraj and so on, to take names. So right went and torpedoed it. I mean, this will do neither of our countries good. We simply have to get over this. Destabilized India is in no way does it make Pakistan happy. We are not happy with it. Destabilized Pakistan can in no way help India.
All right, Kamran, that's a very valid statement, and I'm going to take that to Ambassador Fabian. I think there were lessons to be learned from the Agra summit. I think on the one hand, the intention was there, and ironically, as Kamran pointed out, it was a hardline government in India who was willing to take those chances, right?
Well, I think we have to look at Agra summit a little more closely. A good friend of mine was Joint Secretary Pakistan, dealing with Pakistan at that time. And he was the person who sort of pointed out that the agreement which we were about to agree was not in the interest of India.
Okay.
And, that is what happened. So I don't think, it would be correct to say that, there was almost a breakthrough and then it didn't happen because some people did not, hardline elements did not want it. No, it was a senior official, I can give you his name, and he sort of, he took the initiative to bring it to the notice of others, and a certain train which was about to reach the station was stopped. Okay. And I think it was a good thing.
Okay, so Kamran Sahab, I was a junior journalist covering the Agra summit, but the one question that was asked is, I think it has to be incumbent on both leaders to have a certain, push. And in this time, I think there's an advantage. Both are democratic. Whoever comes in India, there is a democratically elected leader in Pakistan. But at that stage, there was somewhat of an overreaching from the Pakistani side in terms of what was being talked about behind confidential closed doors as well, right?
No. If you mean the breakfast, I disagree completely. I mean, Pranab Roy has explained it ad nauseum.
Yes.
The NDTV gentleman. And
yes,
will somebody please take off this awful picture of mine that has suddenly appeared on Twitter? That's only an aside. I think you guys have done it. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I wasn't in the breakfast, of course not. I was just seeing it. I was just seeing it live on Indian television. General Musharraf, to be fair, said absolutely nothing that was taken out so completely out of context. He never gave out anything discussed. He just said what he would like to. That's a totally different matter. I mean, so I think too much of a hype was made of that. And there was a wonderful article in Frontline by Professor Ijaz Ahmad Khan shortly after this summit, which really summed up the whole thing, and it ended most disgracefully. I am speaking as a Pakistani, not as a Musharraf fan, I can assure you. I am not a fan of Musharraf whatsoever. But it was that close, is what I'm saying. And as the ambassador was told by a senior person who was a joint secretary, when I was told by somebody who was a secretary, who was even senior to that. So let's not get into that. Let's just talk principles here. And the principle to back and back all the time, not to give democratic governments space, I mean in Pakistan, to settle down and hold them to very high standards, I think is also unfair.
Right.
We have our own problems. Yes, we do have problems in Afghanistan. We do have problems in Balochistan. We all know what they are. You know what they are. But without going into details, we do feel threatened. We do feel you are a huge country. We have a problem on both our borders. I have said I've been on 2 or 3 of these track 2-3 thingies that you go to, and I've always said that India being the larger country, and please, before anybody misunderstands me, I'm not saying that Pakistan should do what it wants and India should shut its eyes. I'm not saying that at all. Pakistan should not do anything that will hurt India. That I say outright. But India also should understand that Pakistan is fighting an existential battle, that it needs support from India. And if, God forbid, Pakistan is destabilized more than it is now, it will impact extremely badly on India, which is something I hope will never, ever, ever happen.
All right.
So we have to be together. This region, like it or not, we are neighbors. Like it or not. And let's get on with it and let's stop this rhetoric. Let's bury the past, look at the future with optimism. We've got poor people on both sides who need pure, clean drinking water, sanitary,
Absolutely.
the whole thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
Let me just make one little point.
Right.
That is things that make things go bad. There was this report some months ago about some Pakistanis going in and lopping off the heads of Indian soldiers. And I was on an interview on a program with NDTV, I think Barkhadat it was. And I said, well, as a soldier, I would condemn it out of hand. But there is no evidence whatsoever that was presented by India. None whatsoever. And when Pakistan says, okay, then we've got you and the UNMO-GIP here, but India is chary of it. It doesn't want the UN people coming near its border. All right, don't have that. I said, have a joint commission of army officers from both sides. We are both honorable countries. We are honorable people. We've come out of honorable academies. Let them carry out let them look at the bodies and let them come to a conclusion. But you see, just hyping it up in the media, hyping it up through retired generals and so on both sides, is not the way to do it.
Okay.
Let both the countries meet. Let both the senior officers meet on the border. Let them go and see those bodies of those poor people who were lopped off. How were they lopped off? Who did it? And then the people who did should be court-martialed and hanged, I say.
All right. Kamran Sahib, thank you very much for joining us there and giving us your perspective. And I think he raised 2 questions apart from, talking about that particular incident. One, and then I'm going to take that to Ms. Agha, is the constant plea, and a lot of editorials have also been written here, that Pakistan is always on an existentialist kind of dilemma. If India ratchets up, it will only not help them at all.
It's their problem, It's their. I mean,
Are they
they
playing the
have
victim?
created, this problem, And that is why they keep, because of this problem, Bangladesh was separated. Because of this problem, now the militancy is gaining up, all over the region, So it is, they have to solve this problem. We cannot help in doing this. We have been telling, India has been warning, contain these militant organizations. Not only India, the international community is telling. But the problem is, the Pakistan is using them as an arm of their army, or using them to gain access into the Central Asia or Afghanistan in that region, It's they are using, and you cannot contain them. Once they come up, they're already there. They've become very strong. Some of the organizations have turned against Pakistan. They're even challenging the army. They have killed number of Pakistani soldiers also. This is what happened in the end,
Absolutely,
and there are too many groups, which are operating in Pakistan. So these are the problems, they have created this problem. It is they have to solve it, they have to contain them, and it has become a problem for us and even for Syria, even for Yemen, even for other Islamic nations, There's so many countries, they have killed more Muslims than non-Muslims, So these are the problems they'll have to handle, and they have a psyche. They cannot blame India for this. At least, they cannot say that. Yeah.
So, and Ambassador Fabian, going back to the second point, and this is something, as a journalist covering South Asia, I found at many levels, is there is a constant fear in our region that we continue to play Big Brother. Is it a problem of our public diplomacy not being able to change that perception? Is it a perception problem?
Yeah, but before I answer that question, just to add one point, as already pointed out, terrorism has become Frankenstein's monster.
Sure.
The Pakistani establishment promoted it so long and thought of using it against India, but now the establishment can no longer control it. So it's actually a Frankenstein's monster. Let's hope they will be able to do something about it seriously. Now, as regards India's size, you see, India's size is something India cannot do anything about.
But you think that in terms of public image?
No, in terms of public image also. Let me share with you. I had recently attended a conference on regional integration at Mahatma Gandhi University,
sure,
where I hold the KPS Menon Chair. And we had young scholars from all over India. And many of them said, the asymmetry in size, GDP, population comes in the way. No, this is a wrong way of looking at it, because a SAARC ambassador, one of the SAARC countries, posted in India, I won't like to mention from which country, he told me frankly, look, India, the different asymmetry in size is a given
it's a
fact of life.
Yes.
You can't do anything about it. So if there is an elephant, well, you try to make friends with the elephant. Don't go and throw stones at the elephant, And he also said that some of those people who take decisions in the SAARC, not all, should be actually taken to a psychiatrist. That is, look at India's size as an opportunity, not as a threat. And again, the point was made about trade, that India will dominate. No, trade is something which happens between us when it is to our mutual advantage. So if there is going to be more trade between India and Pakistan, it will be only because it is in the interest of both. And the same applies to other countries. So the asymmetry is no sort of obstacle in the path of regional integration or good relations between India and other countries. No, this is something, sort of
in the psyche.
Invented.
Okay, so we have another caller from Pakistan. Yasir Latif Hamdani is a lawyer and a writer as well. Yasir, what is your view? Have you been watching the Indian elections closely?
Yes, I have been watching the Indian elections very closely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Before I sort of get into what my interest in the Indian elections is, let me just sort of respond to some of the points that were made earlier, if it's all right. Agha Saab, I think, said something to the effect at some point that the religious right in Pakistan supports the Hindu right in India. I think that's not true. That's actually quite intellectually, I would say, dishonest, because what we have seen in terms of Pakistani mullahs or Pakistani right wing, if you look at the history of partition and the sort of the subcontinent independence struggle, their view has always been that in Pakistan they support an Islamic state, but in India they support a secular country. But here's sort of the rub in this is that the kind of secularism they support is actually, in sort of nation state terms, not very secular. So, for example, the fact that most Indian Muslims, when they talk about secularism, they are actually looking to preserve the personal law. But now the problem with that is that personal law itself stands in the way of, sort of having a completely secular system in India. Now, my interest in the elections has been largely one from a legal angle. So I have looked at it from a constitutional legal angle. We follow a lot of your jurisprudence in this country. Your precedents are quoted as good law in Pakistan. Therefore, I have looked at it from the point of view of a liberal, born liberal Muslim, not religious. I'm looking at it and looking at whether or not which of the parties is going to do Muslims or going to do Indians as a whole a service as opposed to this service. And I would imagine that any party that stands for the Uniform Civil Code would be a much better alternative. And so I'm frankly not concerned about the paraphernalia of Hindu nationalism, but I believe that in real terms, in logical terms, in rational terms, the BJP manifesto is a more secular manifesto, and the ideas that they have are more secular than the Congress party. Now, of course, this means that
yeah, sure. Yasser, you said a lot of things, but I think you did mention Mr. Agha by name, and you said a few things, and I think Mr. Agha wanted to step in and clarify what he meant. Mr. Agha, would you sort of step in and clarify? Because I think the impression is that you said that it's in the interest of a right-wing Pakistan political establishment to have a right-wing Hindu political establishment in India.
You see, what I said, the right-wing Pakistan Islamic establishment, as well as in India also, they prefer, mostly in Pakistan, they prefer a Hindu India, and they want a Muslim Pakistan. I'm not saying that they have issued a statement on supporting BJP or here also the Jamaat-e-Islami or Jamiatul Ulama. They both of them are against the secular. So what do you make of both of them against the secular setup?
What do you make of
India?
The very interesting insight that Yasser just gave us, that he's looking at it from a legal, liberal, democratic point of view, and he's saying that in fact any party promising a uniform civil code might actually be better.
No, but most of the Muslims don't want that. Not only Muslims, others also would prefer a Muslim personal law or a Hindu code or a Christian code. Christians don't have, So most of this is, I don't think, even BJP is going to. BJP has been promising for a very long time a unified civil code, but still the Muslim community in India is not yet prepared for it, There is not much support for it, and not only among the Muslims, the large majority of the Hindus also, they don't want to disrupt this, because it will have far-reaching consequences, political consequences also, unnecessary, which nobody wants. I don't think BJP is going to do that. Yes, they have an agenda, they have been calling it for years, not in this election, the earlier also, and they have been campaigning for it, In fact, Nehru has also promised. Nehru has said, that the society is not yet prepared, So therefore, we will continue with the civil, this code, Muslim personal law or the other personal law. And then later, when the society, Muslims get education and come up, at par with other communities, only then we will introduce. So Nehru was also committed to it. And I don't think it is going to change in the near future. And this was appreciated by, in fact, many of the Arabs. In fact, if you look at the Arab Spring, there it was mentioned, in India, the Islam is thriving and the Muslims are living in peace and harmony, It's mainly because of these laws, They also think, the Indian type of secular setup, which is more apt or more, suits to societies like India, Egypt or India, Arab or the developing nations, not like the European model of democratic secular setup. So
Yasser, what is your view? Because I think Mr. Agha gave a very lengthy explanation of the complexities involved in actually bringing in a uniform civil code of any form.
I'm going to sort of, I'm just going to give you my view. And first of all, in terms of what the Muslim right wing or the Islamic right wing in Pakistan wants, just to sort of put things in perspective, the Islamic right wing, the Jamaat-e-Islami, Jamiyat-e-Ulama Hind, etc., and their sort of spin-offs had opposed the creation of Pakistan. They were opposed to it because they felt that the people leading the movement for Pakistan were secular modernists, and hence they should be opposed, or secular communalists, or whatever you want to call them. But that's besides the point. Now let's look at the question of the personal law. First of all, it's a constitutional directive, the constitution that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar made in 1950, and which is, I think, one of the finest constitutions in the world. If you look at it, there is a directive under it that you have to ultimately move to a uniform civil code. But not just that, the situation in India, unfortunately, and I would say this is one of those ironies, is that with the situation after the Shah Bano case, now what we understand is that the Indian Muslim woman is less equal than all other strata of Indian society. So the problem is, let me just sort of finish, because you see, in Pakistan, for example, we passed what is known as the Muslim Family Laws Ordinance, which was a radical shift from, sort of the old traditional law, and it tried to modernize the Islamic law. But in India, it has gone the other direction, and the Congress, just one more thing, Congress, by passing an act to overturning the Shah
But
Bano
Yasser, we're not getting to the merits of the law, of the whole idea of the discussion was how much of the Indian election is being viewed in Pakistan, how much of it is being talked about, what are the issues that are being raised. And I think you raised some very interesting points, and I wanted to bring our guests in. Thank you so much for your time, Yasser, for dialing in via Skype and speaking to us and giving us your perspective.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I think, while Yasser was speaking, I was just looking down at our Twitter wall, and there were some of the guests who started bringing up the K word. So obviously, we didn't go down that road. But I think a lot of what is seen as rhetoric is going to have to settle down, Ambassador Fabian, once government formation is done, and then you have two, clear sides on the table having to sit down and talk the issues.
You mean the K issue?
All issues.
Yes, we have to talk, but I think I should share with you that I do not think that there is going to be any progress as far as settling the Kashmir issue is concerned. I think the only basis on which it can be settled is on the basis of the ground realities.
Okay.
There is a line of control, and that is sort of more or less the border, but as Prime Minister Manmohan Singh wanted, we can make that border less of a border. We can make it a friendly border.
Okay.
That can be done. But anything other than that, any sort of talk of status of Kashmir and all that, that is totally unrealistic and doesn't make any sense. And Pakistan has to accept the ground realities. And in general, in India, there is an acceptance, because we in India have no intention of using our army to throw Pakistan out of the territory which it illegally occupies. No, we have accepted it. Okay. I mean, certain things you have to accept in life and to go on.
All right, Ambassador Fabian, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Agha, for joining us in the studio. And I think a discussion on India-Pakistan can go on, and I think there were a lot of tweets from our guests as they got off the show wanting to talk more. And I think we will have a lot of conversations, and we would like to ask all of you to join in. Log in on indiapostlive.com, leave your comments, leave your suggestions, what you have to say. Also tweet with us, #IndiaPostLive. We will continue responding to you and continue having conversations with experts like our guests in studio. Keep watching.